I have a really important concept today, especially for anyone who is struggling to move on from somebody. If there is an ex that you have not been able to get out of your mind, if there is someone you keep comparing people to in your life anytime you meet someone new, this video is for you. Maybe you keep trying to find someone better than them, but it's not working, and it feels like you compare everyone to your ex and no one feels good enough, and it never feels the same way as you did with them. I am talking about that person that was exciting, the person you had chemistry with, the person you fell head over heels for, but who ultimately said, I don't want to be with you. There are 4 things I want to say about this that I promise you are going to leave you feeling better by the end of this video. So first, I want to talk about the concept of the vacation hotel. The person we fell in love with is like the vacation hotel. For argument's sake, let's talk about it as a really top-notch hotel. This might be giving them too much credit, by the way, but let's make it a really amazing hotel like the Four Seasons. Imagine for a moment that the person that it felt amazing with in the past, that it felt so exciting with, where you had incredible chemistry, where you felt like, oh my God, if I could be with this person forever, I would live in this constant state of euphoria and relationship happiness. This would be everything I need in life. You're on vacation, you're having the best time, you're like, I don't want to leave, I'm not ready to go home. But then we leave and we go back to our actual lives. The people that can't commit to us, or the people that only commit to us for a period of time and then tell us that for whatever reason they don't want to be with us, they are that amazing hotel. They're like a place that we visited that was this amazing, gorgeous, romantic vacation. But we can't act like the Four Seasons was where we were supposed to live. In order for someone to become our home, the place we live every single day, they have to choose us. So if you're struggling to move on from someone and you keep comparing new people that you date to the person you felt extraordinary with in the past, remember, that person showed themselves to be a vacation hotel. They are not your home. The second thing I want to talk about is closure. Look, when someone decides they don't want us, and we've decided that we love them and wanted to be with them, we've decided that what we have with them is so special, we felt incredible when we were with them. When that kind of person rejects us, they take on a whole new and undeserved level of importance in our lives. All of a sudden, they became the thing we wanted that rejected us. And so now it can take on this almost supernatural level of importance. We feel like we don't ever have closure because we never got to see what that relationship could have been had it carried on for another 6 months, another year, another 10 years, or a lifetime. Who here watching this video right now has that feeling of, I don't have closure? They let me go and I feel like I don't have closure. I feel like that relationship never got to see what it could truly be. If you feel that, let me know in the comments. I want to hear from you. Because when someone rejects us, we feel like we don't have closure. And there's a danger with that. Now we go out into our lives and we look for someone new because we still want to find love, but no one we meet can give us closure because no one can be the person who created the lack of closure in the first place. So we end up giving them an impossible task. We're asking them to be the closure of the person who rejected us. But really what we want deep down is the closure that comes from the person who rejected us coming back and saying, I was so mistaken. You are the love of my life. I don't know what I was thinking. I want you. In other words, the closure we want is for the person who rejected us to come back and choose us. And so when someone new comes into our lives and they choose us right off the bat, it's almost like no matter who they are or what they are, they can't be enough because they can't be the closure we're seeking. It's like we're on a date saying, you, new person in front of me, can't accept me on behalf of the person who rejected me. And what I really want is for the person who rejected me to realize that they were wrong and come back and choose me, but you can't be that, and so I'm kind of angry at you. So no matter who they are, it's like we don't truly see the value of this person in front of us choosing us because we've told ourselves that the real value is being chosen by this this person from the past, and that's the one thing we don't have. But the person who rejected us can have no value for us. It is its own form of closure when someone rejects us, because the only person who can be right for us is the person who truly values us and really sees us, both sees you for everything that you have to bring and everything that you are, and says, I choose that. I choose you. That's what love really is. So when someone rejects us, they're showing us that they're not our person. We have to stop looking for closure in them coming back and accepting us. That is not where closure lies. By the way, if you are struggling emotionally with this right now, I want to encourage you to go try out Mathew AI. I created Mathew AI to be my best advice when you need it, and it is available for as many hours a day as you need. You can try it at askmh.com, and you can even just go and enjoy it for free for a few minutes to see what it can do for you. I get messages every single day from people saying, this changed my life. I underestimated what this could do for me, and then I went and tried it, and it was a game changer. So I want you to go and try it for yourself. What we need in these situations is not to hear the right thing once. We need to hear it 1,000 times. We need massive amounts of repetition, and that's what Mathew AI can give you. It can speak to you for as many hours as you need to feel better. So go check it out, askmh.com, try it for free, and let me know what you think. I'm excited to hear what you get out of it. Now, here's the third thing when it comes to moving on from somebody. We have to remember that we do not know how that relationship actually would have turned out if it had carried on. This is a thing none of us know. You see, we are wonderful fantasists when it comes to what a relationship would have been if it had continued. We're fiction writers. We love writing a fiction about what it would have been. If it had just carried on, I would have been blissfully happy and euphoric forever. This is a complete fantasy. All you know for sure, if you were with someone for a glorious, euphoric year, is that you had one glorious, euphoric year. If you were with someone for 7 years, all you know is the 7 years you spent with them. Relationships are a marathon. Lifelong relationships are like multiple marathons all strung together over a lifetime. There are so many things that can happen in the course of that lifetime. Isn't that true? How many couples do you know in your life where you could not have predicted where they are today by where they were 5 or 10 years ago? How many people, how many couples have surprised you? How many of them were not as happy as you thought? How many couples had issues you never knew they had? How many couples that seemed perfect together ended up not being together? Over a long enough period of time, you have no idea what a relationship will be. So why is it that we think we are an expert on how great our past relationship would have remained had it continued? And by the way, it definitely wouldn't have stayed the same. This much I know. No matter how good that relationship was, it would not have stayed the same. It would have changed. It would have evolved. Challenges you never saw coming would have occurred. There would have been all sorts of things that you'd have to deal with in the relationship. That's always true. So this idea that we are the expert on how great that relationship would have remained is nonsense. We are writing a work of fiction in our mind. If I could have just held on to that relationship, you don't understand, Matt. They were the perfect person for me, and it would have just stayed as perfect as it was forever had they not rejected me. Really? Because it couldn't even last longer than it did. If it lasted 3 years, then it couldn't last 4. If it lasted 6 months, it couldn't even last a year. So what do we mean when we say it was perfect? And when someone rejects us, by the way, it's very easy to ignore the things that we were unhappy with in the relationship, because our ego is so blinded by the rejection and not feeling good enough that all we do is glorify and romanticize the relationship we had. We don't put any focus on the relationship that we didn't have. We don't put any focus on the ways that it came up short, or made us feel anxious, or made us feel not good enough so much of the time, or we were around someone who didn't make make us feel more confident. In fact, being around them made us more insecure. By being with them, we actually felt like we became less confident because we didn't feel truly accepted or we didn't get our needs met. Instead, we put all of our focus on the chemistry we had, or on how amazing we think they are, or how special the relationship was in its peak moments. We don't think about what it wasn't. And that leads us to the fourth point. If you are struggling to move on from an ex, if you keep comparing new people to this person, or if you feel like I'm never going to feel again the way that I felt in the past, the fourth thing you need to know is that you have no idea what is going to make you happy tomorrow. When we compare other people to an ex, what we're saying is, I want you to make me happy in the old way. But there might actually be an even better form of happiness than the old way. There might be a different form of happiness that winds up being much more important to us. We are really bad predictors as human beings of what is going to make us happy in the future. So what we try to do is replicate what has made us happy in the past, not realizing that everything is evolving. We are evolving. We are changing. We may be changing in ways that we're not acknowledging yet, but we are changing. Our needs are changing all the time. How many of you have the same needs at 35 as you did at 22, or 45 as you did at 35? Our needs change. What will make us happy changes. And sometimes we haven't caught up to what our inner voice knows is going to make us happy today. And sometimes it's because we're so busy trying to get something we think we want in life that we don't ever stop and listen to what we actually need today. Sometimes it's because we're following our ego, and egoically, as we said earlier in this video, we are stuck on trying to resolve something from the past, like a rejection that we've experienced. So now, instead of trying to find someone who's going to make us happy, we're trying to find someone who makes us feel we're enough. Big difference. And we go chasing after some old model of happiness. We have to start making space for the possibility that happiness may arrive in a form that we did not anticipate. It may arrive in a type that we did not ever associate with being our type. It might arrive in a personality that is very different from the kinds of personalities that we have been with or been attracted to in the past. It might arrive as a different feeling than the feeling we were used to. We have to start making space for that. And we get worried, like this person's not going to check all of the same boxes that the last person did. Well, maybe they're not supposed to. Maybe they'll check new boxes that your ex didn't have. And you'll come to realize that those new boxes are where it's at. Those new boxes are far more important than the boxes your ex checked. So we have to recognize that we have a limited vantage point from where we stand today. We don't necessarily know what's going to make us happy tomorrow. We are not the expert on what might make us happier than we have ever been. There's one more thing I want to say before you go. So many of us are so busy wishing to go back to something in life, to go back to an earlier time, wishing something had happened differently in our lives. And when I find myself doing that, I am always reminded of one of my favorite movie clips of all time, Frodo Baggins in the Mines of Moria with Gandalf. Frodo says to Gandalf, "I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had ever happened." And Gandalf says to him those immortal words, "So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to do is decide what to do with the time that is given to us." We can spend our lives wishing things had never happened. I wish this person had never broken up with me. I wish that relationship was still going on. I wish I could go back in time and be living that life again. I wish I'd never made a certain mistake. I wish I didn't have this regret. But the reality is, this is all a kind of fantasy in which we are wanting a different universe to exist. A universe where the person we dated was ready sooner, the one who couldn't commit. A universe where that person we fell in love with was actually emotionally available after all. A universe where we had been more secure in a relationship and hadn't pushed someone away with our controlling or needy or jealous behavior. A universe where someone didn't betray us or cheat on us. A universe where we had been enough for somebody. We're wishing for a universe to exist that did not exist. That is not the universe we are living in. I remember making this point recently, and one of my followers, Amanda, said, "I wish I'd never met him." Even that is wishing for a different universe. In this universe, that's not what happened. In this universe, you met him. But what's going on right now with everyone who is here, everyone who is watching this video, is that you are alive. You are watching me right now. You are hearing these words. And that means that while you're fantasizing about the way you wish life could have been or would be, real life is happening. And life gets better the moment you decide to marry your real life instead of fantasizing about a life that doesn't exist. That means not fantasizing about living at the Four Seasons. That is wishing for a reality that doesn't exist, and it is a denial of real life. Instead, we need to make a commitment to ourselves and our lives that we are actually going to lean into real life. And when we lean into creating new opportunities and fully experiencing the love that is waiting for us, if we start opening ourselves up to it, life starts to get really, really good. Our job is to divorce the fantasy and marry our real life. Tell yourself, I am here now. And there are stories that begin precisely where my feet are now that I couldn't even conceive of. There are people that can come into my life who are so amazing, I couldn't have imagined them. That's the beauty of it. But you can't see all of that stuff in front of you if you're focused on the past. You can't see all that is coming for you if you're still in a dreamlike state, glazed over, focusing on an idea of what past love was supposed to be instead of the expansive reality right in front of you, bursting with possibilities. Marry real life. That's where the good stuff is. It's not in the fantasies. It's in the love we never saw coming, the love we didn't expect, the happiness that a formerly heartbroken version of ourselves was simply not equipped to see. Thank you so much for watching. Leave me a comment on what this meant to you. And by the way, if you want to come and do some deep work with me to feel better, to work on your patterns, to build a new life for yourself going into a new chapter, I'm doing a 2-day retreat in Miami this October on the 18th and 19th. Ticket information is at mhretreat.com. This is the pinnacle of what I do. So if you want to experience the best of my coaching, this is it. I really hope to see you and meet you there. And by the way, if you want a video that follows on really well from what we've been talking about here, go check out this one here, okay? It'll pair really well with what you've just learned. I'll see you soon. So as many of you know, a couple of weeks ago, I got engaged. I suppose my love life has always been very interesting because even though I've lived out my love life very much in private, people have always very publicly asked me what my relationship status is. Imagine your grandmother or your mother at the Thanksgiving table pressuring you and saying, "Why aren't you married yet? Why don't you have a partner?" Imagine that times 1,000,000, and that's been my life for the last decade. It's also interesting to be getting engaged at a time when so many of our audience, so many of you who follow me are asking me why men won't commit. Do we live in an era where just the norm is men not wanting to commit, not wanting a real relationship? And so we thought we'd take this opportunity to make a video about the signs that someone is actually getting more serious with you. And we came up with 11. Number 1, he brags about you in front of other people. It's a particular kind of compliment, isn't it? When someone doesn't just compliment you in private, but they do it in front of others, their friends, their family, strangers that you just met together. It shows a particular kind of respect and admiration. So if he starts bigging you up in front of other people, that's a pretty lovely sign. Number 2, he's willing to mix your lives in a way that might be inconvenient to him. whether it's going to see your friends in a different part of town or going to something that your family wants you to go to, things that ordinarily might seem like sacrifices, but he doesn't treat them as sacrifices. Instead, he just sees them as things that will make you happy, and therefore it makes him happy to do them. Which leads me nicely on to number 3. Your happiness is more important to him than his tastes. He buys you tickets to that Celine Dion concert that you really want to go to, but the 2 tickets are for you and him, not you and your friend. He's willing to go see Celine. Or he listens to your music in the car. You have no idea how many times I've listened to the Encanto album through. Number 4, he's willing to adjust the temperature of his house, which, as Jameson will tell you, I didn't do for years when Jameson was here, freezing his little balls off in the icy tundra.
I think we probably cut that.
Why?
I just don't want to imply that my balls are little.
Jameson literally came in today and remarked with some venom and resentment at how warm the house is now. Number 5, he plans a trip with you months in advance. Anyone can take you away for the weekend this weekend, but for someone to actually say, let's plan a trip for a few months from now, you know at the very least they're planning on being with you longer. They're actually looking at investing and building something in the meantime. Number 6, he respects the things that are important to you. I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and there was a woman in this class who had just got her black belt. And when someone gets their black belt, they get to give a speech. And it was very beautiful because while she was giving her speech, all of us were lined up listening, and her husband was off to the side of the mat watching with their dog in his arms, and just his eyes watering at watching this person he loves achieve this amazing thing. So, and there was something profoundly beautiful to me about that he both respected and admired her for something that mattered to her and was part of that with her. Number 7, the fights have less ultimatums. You know that when you're in the beginning with someone and just sort of every fight is relationship threatening. It doesn't matter what you argue about. It's always a question in that moment of, is this all too much? Is this worth it? Are we really, maybe I'll just storm out and never come back. Well, hopefully over time, the threats on the relationship become less. You don't walk away so easily. And in fact, someone who's serious about you has a desire to make up with you quicker because the health of the relationship is paramount to them. And simply walking off and being at odds with you and having the problems of the relationship fester becomes a less and less viable option. Number 8, his friends teasing him about how in love he is, how much he's investing in the relationship, how much time he's not spending with them, is no longer something that affects him in the same way as it would have before. It's not his kryptonite anymore. He's not made weaker by these teasings of his bros. I remember when I posted my engagement announcement, and there was just some bloke in the comment. It was lots of lovely, lovely comments, thousands. It was unbelievable and so touching. Then there was just this one bloke in the comments that went, another one bites the dust. When we're happy and when we feel like, I know this is right, we're not weakened by the comments that in relationships where we were less certain of our own decision, we would have been affected by. They would have needled us. Not because someone was so important necessarily, but because it struck at an uncertainty that we already had. Number 9, when he stops worrying so much about missing out on other plans because he's happiest when he's spending time with you. FOMO becomes FOMO. Oliver Burkeman talks about the problem of FOMO in his book 4,000 Weeks, where he talks about this idea that we're all worried about missing out on things, and by definition, we are always missing out on everything all the time. And when someone's not particularly happy in a situation, or when they've got one foot out of the door, they're acutely aware of all of the things that they're missing out on in that moment. The party that their friends invited them to, the boys' trip that they could have gone on, the family event that's happening, or just the myriad things that he could be doing that aren't being with you in this moment. But that fear of I'm missing out on everything becomes irrelevant in the context of someone that you're building something with, someone that makes you happiest when you're with them. The everything becomes the feeling that you have when you're with them. So you're no longer searching for the everything that's on the outside. Number 10, he starts collecting mementos from your time together. Could be a trip you went on, it could be an evening you had together where they gave you something in a restaurant, but these little knickknacks that are the milestones of your relationship, he keeps because it matters. It becomes part of the fabric, the history of your relationship together. Not everyone is sentimental like this, but you know what it's like when you care about someone, you're more likely to hold on to something as a symbol of your time with that person, as something that reminds you of that person or a time in the relationship. If he starts getting sentimental about things from your relationship together, that counts for something. Number 11. His associations with commitment itself change. I know that for most of my life, it always felt like commitment was giving something up. It always felt like a sacrifice. There was always some glorification of the other, whatever the other may be. Some idea of freedom, some idea of single life. But I remember thinking, with this person, I am ready to actually build something. I'm excited to build something. And with that, my entire associations around a relationship, around commitment, all the things that felt scary about commitment didn't feel scary, felt natural, it felt like home. That becomes true, doesn't it, of anything in life that we develop a kind of positive addiction for. You know, if we've spent our life being really unhealthy and then all of a sudden we discover good nutrition and exercise and we start feeling really good, it doesn't feel like a sacrifice anymore. Instead, it feels like this is where I want to be. This is what I want to be doing. Our associations change. I'm not sacrificing something really exciting for this thing that's really good for me. The thing that's really good for me feels like the thing that's really exciting. There are many, many ways that a person could show you that their associations have shifted, the way they describe their relationship, their time with you, and what it represents to them, and the way they talk about their past or the other life unchosen. Do they talk about it with a sense of melancholy and heaviness and I've sacrificed so much? Or do they talk about it with a sense of calm and peace, a feeling of I know that where I am is where I want to be? Thank you so much for watching. I wanted to let all of you know that I have something really special coming up on the 23rd of this month. For my members, I am holding a 2-hour masterclass on how to get him to commit. Because you maybe have gone through this video and listened to all of these things I've said and thought, well, I would really like someone to do and be all of the things you just said, but I'm not seeing those things. Well, there are actually things you can do to influence that situation. I don't believe that it's any woman's fault if a guy won't or can't commit. So I want you to remove that from your mind. If someone hasn't committed to you in the past or isn't committing now, that's not your fault. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that there were things I have learned over the years, in 15 years of working with people's love lives, that they could do to influence whether a guy commits or not. You have more power than you even know. And once you understand the levers that you can use to change how comfortable someone feels about committing to you, how safe they feel, how trusting they feel of you and the future they'll get with you, how excited they are about the future that waits for them if they choose you. Once you understand how to affect and impact those things, you have the best possible chance at getting someone to commit to you on a deeper level. And in this 2-hour masterclass, I am going to show you exactly what you can do to have that impact on someone you're seeing. All you need to do to be part of this, because like I said, it's an exclusive, is for my Love Life Club members, but you can join on a free 2-week trial to come and be a part of this, experience it. And if you don't want to stay a member, you don't have to stay a member. You can bounce out again without paying a penny, but you can also stay and be part of a bigger journey with us if you want. Either way, come and try this, if for no other reason than to be part of this 2-hour masterclass. Go to askmh.com to be a part of this and to claim your free trial. And I look forward to seeing you on the 23rd. Thank you so much for watching. It's lovely to be back on the sofa for a video, and I'll see you next week.
It can be quite easy for someone who's manipulative. They'll make you the problem. They'll convince you that the problem is coming from you. We're unwilling to revise our image of this person and of this relationship. Those emotions are exactly what got us into this situation in the first place. I have 5 ways that I've thought about that really indicate someone is poisonous for your life. The first one, in an argument, they look to inflict damage, not solve problems. I always think about it like scorpion mode. You get near a scorpion, it gets afraid and it stings you. And you'll also find, by the way, that when you're doing something that makes them feel insecure, let's say you're going out in the evening and it's something that maybe they're not invited to, maybe this is just something you're going to on your own. If they're feeling insecure about it, they won't come to you with that vulnerability. Instead, they'll make it a fight and then go to one-upmanship or revenge. So now they'll go out, but it will be about one-upping you, doing something that will make you even more jealous than they feel right now. Again, it's about inflicting damage, not about solving problems. Number 2, they treat everything like it's an attack. You may come to them in a completely civil and rational way and choose your words very carefully and say, listen, I just wanted to talk to you about that thing this week. You'll find that they will meet that with aggression. By the way, one of the common side effects of this, and you may have seen this for yourself, is you'll find yourself now afraid to bring up problems with them. You sit there agonizing over what words to use and treading on eggshells as you say something. If you're doing that to the extreme, it means that you don't have a healthy relationship with constructive criticism in your relationship. 3, they make you the root of all evil. So now, instead of admitting that something is actually their fault, that they need to change something, they'll make you the problem. They'll convince you that the problem is coming from you. And this is one of the really insidious parts. They can make you believe that things are your fault that have nothing to do with you.
Sorry to interrupt the video, but if you're watching this and your love life is a priority for you this year, you want to meet your person, I have a free training called Dating with Results that is going to help you do that, and you can watch it right now. All you need to do to sign up is go to datingwithresults.com. I'll see you over there. And now let's get back to the video.
Number 4, they'll show you the most love when you're hurt. One of the common patterns in toxic relationships is that toxic person they'll accuse you of things, they'll cut you, they'll hurt you. And when you're on your knees, crying, begging, when in that moment where you're at your lowest ebb and they realize that they've been able to break you, then they'll switch. Then they'll show you love. And here's why. Because at that point, they feel like it's safe to do so. Because in the moments where you're feeling strong, they're feeling weak. Which brings me on to point number 5. They get uncomfortable with your success. You'll find that a toxic person will belittle your ambitions, will make you feel unworthy even when you're doing well. When you do well and you have an achievement, they won't celebrate it with you and get excited with you. They'll brush it off, they'll change the subject relatively quickly, or they'll find a problem with it. You come home saying you got a promotion and they'll say, well, won't that now be a lot more work? So this video isn't about coming from a high and mighty place and us looking at toxic people and saying there's something wrong with you. Oh, I realized you're the problem, not me. It's not that we're perfect and they're not. We're not perfect. And that's the whole point. You need to come to a relationship to meet a team player who is also imperfect, and you can help heal each other. You can't heal each other, of course. That's something only we ourselves can do. But we can provide an environment for our partner where it's possible for them to heal, where it's possible for them to become strong, to become great. Mark Twain said that the really great make you feel that you too can become great.
Our emotions get very heavily involved in the people close to us, whether it's the person we're dating or in love with, whether it's our siblings, our parents, our best friend. There are things that we may deeply want to change and may even get to the point of saying, I need to change this, or I can't have a relationship with this person. There gets to be a point in life where we've communicated calmly and in a neutral way what it is we would like to change about the dynamic, where we have given many opportunities for that change to happen and space for that change to happen, and where we have it confirmed over and over and over again that this change just appears to be too big of a shift for this person. Either the shift never happens at all, or it's never sustainable. It's a 5-minute shift, and then they always end up snapping back into their default position and behavior. And when that happens, we have hard decisions to make. There's a point at which the source of the problem actually jumps. It transfers from that person to us, because that person is who they've been.
Yeah, that's
that
right.
Should no longer surprise us. They are who they've been. We're now the person who's continuing to complain about old information. And we have to then look at ourselves and say, what's going on with me that I either can't leave this person and can't seem to shift or can't stay with this person and shift my expectation of them. Because if we stay with someone who won't change and we're unwilling to shift our expectation, then we become the reason we're complaining, which isn't excusing their behavior. In fact, it's just, they could be a terrible person. But why is it we haven't adjusted our expectation of this person? What's going on with us that we're unwilling to revise our image of this person and of this relationship that we have with them? Why have we not lowered our expectation? Why do we still have speculative expectations that are entirely speculative? Because we've never had those expectations met in the past, not sustainably. So we still speculate on the expectation of what they can be. You've probably been through every kind of emotion with this person there is. You've cried, You've been angry. You've been depressed. You've been guilty. You've been frantic. You've despaired. You've been through everything you can go through with this person. You've begged for change. What emotion have you kept up your sleeve that you're going to bring out next year that's suddenly going to change this person? I have to know. If you're telling yourself that they're going to change, what's the reaction that all this time you've been storing to suddenly get a different result? Because the chances are you've already cycled through all of them many times. Empirically, you have to ask yourself, has this person ever changed? Or has this been a repeatable pattern throughout my relationship with this person? And if I'm still talking about it now with my friends, with a therapist, if I'm still ruminating about it constantly, then it's still happening. And the answer is no, it has not changed. In my own life, empathy has been something that, if I'm not careful, means that in a relationship, there's no limit to how far I can fall. Because if every time someone comes back to you and they do something wrong, you're able to process that by saying, well, yes, that was awful, but I understand why they did that. I understand where that's coming from. I know all about their terrible childhood and what they've been through. I know about that awful cataclysmic event in their life that precipitated this behavior. We can do that with every possible thing a person does. Even if you decide someone is a narcissist, they are absolutely a diagnosable narcissist. Empathy doesn't stop there. You can still look at a narcissist and go, they can't help it. This is something that they were either born with or that they developed at an age where they were still developing, and it's made them into this person who does these awful things, who acts so selfishly, who's always about themselves, who disregards my needs, who cannot see me and my pain, but they can't help it. They are doing their best. Quite literally, this is the best they can do. And I still care about them and I don't want to abandon them. So your empathy can produce that mutated kindness and that guilt with absolutely anybody at the most extreme possible levels of bad behavior.
If you're taking care of them and making sure they're okay, and they're taking care of themselves and making sure they're okay, who's taking care of you? Mm-hmm. You know, it's quite a common thing that you hear, but in order to be there for other people, your own cup has to be full, and your priority in life should always be to make sure that you're okay. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to put yourself first in every single situation, and in fact, you shouldn't. It's really important to put other people first sometimes, and to put those you love before you when they need you more than you need them in that moment. But ultimately, your empathy towards other people cannot come at the detriment of actually making sure you're okay. That's when you have to suspect yourself, I think, as to whether or not is it really empathy, or are you just caught in a toxic cycle where it's serving some kind of need for you?
Well, I think that's exactly right. And what happens is, because we're so close to this person, we've heard all of their stories. And people who are really good at mobilizing your empathy get very good at telling stories that make them sympathetic. Mm. And by the way, we all have things that we've been through in our lives that could have made us worse people or better people. Right? Everyone has things. But there are certain people who are really good at taking their past and constructing a narrative that creates excuses for really bad behavior in the present. And if you're somebody who is truly empathetic and you're prone to feeling sad for people or seeing people as sympathetic, then
it can be quite easy for someone who's manipulative to use their past as a way to mobilize your empathy. And it could also happen in reverse, by the way. If they know that you pride yourself on being generous, being kind, being empathetic, and then you start calling them out on their behavior and having more boundaries, they can then attack you for that and say, oh, and you're supposed to be, you see yourself as this empathetic person. Well, right now, you've got absolutely no care for what I've been through and the ways that I'm struggling. And you're always playing this empathetic character. And yet right now you're just abandoning me. You know, that now they can weaponize it in the other direction and get you feeling guilty that you haven't been empathetic enough.
And it's particularly dangerous when someone who takes a lot meets someone who is predisposed to giving too much. That becomes a very toxic combination. We can get into the kind of language issue of constantly labeling everyone toxic all the time. And that, I think, is a dangerous thing to do, because most people are not all good or all bad. Everyone is a combination of both. There are some pretty bad ones, don't get me wrong, but I've found, I don't know about you, but most people that I've ever known are a combination of good and bad. The problem is when we encounter someone where the dynamic between us and them is really bad, where it produces a kind of toxic result. And I'm going to give you 4 things today that will help you break free of a dynamic like this. And in the process, massively build your confidence and develop a better life and better relationships. Number 1, listen to your resentment, but be impatient with your complaining. The resentment is powerful. The resentment is telling you something feels wrong. This giving that I'm doing, something about it doesn't feel right. It feels like there is a complete asymmetry in what we're bringing to this relationship. You know, think about it. When we give to a charity, we don't feel resentful afterwards, do we? Because we feel it was just generosity. It was just giving. It was doing something good. So then why in this situation does the giving lead to resentment? Because the giving has become a compulsion. So that resentment is something that we need to listen to. But the complaining is something we have to be incredibly wary of. And we've all done it. I've done it. I've been in situations before where I complain, in some cases for years, where I complain about someone over and over and over again. But my behavior around that person never changes. And we have to get to a point where we have an intolerance for our own complaining. Because complaining can just become a kind of pressure valve that lets the air out of our resentment until we decide to just go back to the same behavior. We don't actually do anything. Complaining becomes a surrogate for action. Number 2, take your complaints and convert them into standards and boundaries. Every time you complain, I want you to hear what you're complaining about and go, well, okay, if I was to actually implement something that dealt with that complaint, what would it look like? Either in the form of a new standard or a new boundary. What would I say no to? What would I start saying yes to in myself or in the things I want to do? What behaviors would I change around somebody? Where would I stop listening or having a conversation with someone about a certain thing if that conversation is never productive? Or if it always leaves me feeling like I've been berated for something that I don't deserve to be berated for? Where am I actually going to say enough? Where am I going to do something that I really want to do, even though my normal reaction to doing that thing would be to feel guilty about it? Take your complaints and make them actionable. Complaints are passive. Standards and boundaries, that's where all the results are. That's where the action is. Number 3, don't expect having these new boundaries and standards to feel good, at least initially. Because the truth is, it probably won't. You'll put your foot down on something, you'll say no to somebody, and the first thing that will happen is you'll feel this rush of shame. Who am I to ask for this? Who am I to say no? Who am I to have needs? And then you feel guilt. Oh, I feel guilty. I shouldn't have done that. I should be doing more. I should be showing up for this person. And then you feel fear. I'm not doing enough, so I won't be loved. This person's not going to want me. This person's not going to see me as important or valuable or a good human being anymore. All of this leads us to wanting to backtrack. And what we have to remind ourselves in that moment is those emotions are exactly what got us into this situation in the first place. So they do not serve us now, not in this context. And if we're worried we've gone too far, I've gone too far by saying no to that. I've gone too far in asserting my needs. Well, firstly, you will go too far sometimes when you're trying to recalibrate. That's the nature of it. You're still practicing. So you're going to get it wrong sometimes. But your bigger fear should be the doing it wrong by doing too much, not the doing it wrong by not doing enough, especially if this is your pattern. Number 4, realize that doing things that are right for you, finally, is actually going to be the thing that allows you to give real love to this person. In other words, when you're free of the compulsion of giving out of obligation, you're free to give out of love. You're free to actually give authentically. And the irony is, I think, when you come from that place, you start actually thinking creatively about what would I like to do for this person? Not what do I have to do for this person? What would I like to do? What would be a really beautiful, loving thing to do for this person? And now you're into a relationship that will see if it can stand up on those terms. Because also, let's not forget, when you take away those things that you do compulsively with someone, they will now be confronted with who you are and loving you for who you are, not for what you do. Not as a transaction, not loving you because they need you or because they're dependent on you or because they don't want the giving to stop, but just loving you for you. Now, that will either be enough for them or it won't. Wouldn't you rather know, by the way? But what happens is you get to now love and give from a pure place. They get a chance, a shot at doing the same, and the relationship will now reveal itself to be what it actually is, which is either something worth keeping or something that was never worth as much as you thought it was in the first place. Dating is hard, isn't it? It's confusing. It can be stressful. It can be exhausting. It can be fruitless and lead to burnout. Well, I want to fix those things for you because finding love is a beautiful thing and it's a deeply human need that we have that is not going away regardless of how frustrated we get with the dating process. So if you want to escape the horrible dramas of modern day dating and actually just find the love that you're looking for, I have a free training I did called Dating with Results, where you can just give me 1 hour of your time. It's completely free, and I will show you the roadmap for finding love in your life today. This year, quicker than if you didn't watch this. You can find it right now for free at datingwithresults.com. I'll see you over there. What does it take to get a bloody relationship these days? A lot of people finding themselves in these protracted casual situationships, dynamics that mimic relationships that give people the boyfriend-girlfriend experience, but try and pin someone down and ask them, are we actually in a relationship? Are we actually exclusive? Is this going somewhere? And suddenly they start to freak out. Is this something you can relate to? Well, if so, I think this video is going to be one you enjoy very, very much. I'm going to give you 13 ways to be taken seriously by somebody for a relationship. And they are really practical and really easy to do. Before we do that, I want to make sure that you go over to howtogettheguy.com. We have a new tool over there. It allows you to tell us what your love life challenge is right now, and then the tool recommends you my best solution for what you're going through. All you have to do is go over to howtogettheguy.com, put in your name, and hit start here for your personalized solution. Now, onto the video. Number 1, be more than a last-minute plan. It's so easy when we like someone and they text us at the last minute saying, do you want to do something tonight? It's so easy to just say yes.
Now, I'm not saying you should never respond to a spontaneous offer to see someone, but if you find yourself routinely responding to last-minute offers, then you are devaluing yourself. Instead, send someone a message back that says, I'd have loved to, but I have plans tonight. Maybe give me more than 24 hours notice next time? ? Little blushy, smiling face. Number 2, don't just go with their flow on a date. There's a temptation, isn't there, to sort of please someone by going with their rhythm, their pace, what they want. If someone else wants to have many drinks, we feel like we should have many drinks with them. Someone else wants to stay out late. We have work in the morning. We're going to be tired. We don't really want to stay out late, but we do. Someone wants to have sex or go home with us. We oblige because we feel like we should and we're attracted to them, but it's a bit fast for us, but I am attracted to them and maybe it won't hurt. So we do it, even though it's not something that we actually really consciously want to do. Don't just do it because the other person wants to. When you set the tone, when you go with your own flow, you get instant respect and you get taken seriously. Number 3, suggest a date plan. Now, this doesn't have to be for date number 1. You can see if they're good at coming up with a plan for date number 1. But for date number 2 or 3 or 4, don't be afraid to be the one who actually takes initiative and suggests something. Why don't we do this? I found tickets to this thing. Do you want to go? It shows that, well, A, you're confident enough to suggest something. B, you're diverse in the kind of things you like to do. Hey, I saw this event, this mezcal tasting experience. Do you want to go do it? I thought it could be fun. But C, it also creates a sense of adventure that this person experiences with you. It's not just on a set dating track that mimics every other date he's been on. There is a unique experience and moments that you're going to have together. Number 4, send a post-date text. This is where you're the one who actually sends a text saying, I had a really lovely time tonight. Now, I actually don't get hung up on whether you're the one who sends the text first or you send this as a reply. My point is, don't be indifferent. Don't be too cool. Sending a text that says, I had a really great time tonight is an act of vulnerability, and it shows that the date actually meant something to you. And this is especially important after intimacy. If you go home with someone and have sex, the next day, don't play it cool and just be like, well, I'm just not going to text them. I'm going to wait for them to come to me. I'm not saying you have to rush to text them, but at some point that day, send them a message and say, I had a really amazing time with you. When you send that, what you're showing is that actually had some meaning to you. And so the implication is you shouldn't treat me casually or lightly because that wasn't just nothing to me. Playing it cool backfires if it teaches someone, if the message received by them is that the moments, the intimacy, the experience of being together had no meaning to you. By the way, this is a technique called post-framing. What you're doing is attaching value to an event after it's happened so that that person knows that that event actually had some meaning to you. And it makes it more likely, therefore, that it will have meaning for them too. Number 5, show genuine appreciation for something they did. If there was effort made by somebody, and by the way, you can do this in the same text I mentioned before, or you can do it in a different text, actually acknowledge the effort that was made. Hey, by the way, that was really sweet of you to arrange the tickets. Thank you so much. That shows that I actually noticed the effort you made. I'm shining a light on it so that you see that effort too. What it tells that person subconsciously is, oh, I made an effort. Look at that. And if someone actually acknowledges and realizes they made an effort, then it makes it more meaningful to them that they made that effort. And of course, the fact that you're appreciating it makes you valuable too, because not everyone does. Number 6, have them come to your part of town. One of the staples of someone being casual is them always having the dates on their terms. where they want, at a time that suits them. What we want to do is bring someone into our world. And one of the ways we can do that is simply by having them literally come to the area where we frequent, where we live. I'm not necessarily saying your house, your apartment, but have them come to your part of town, especially if that part of town means that they're the one who has to go out of their way this time. And I always think that bringing someone into your world is a way of bonding them to you more. If everyone is always kind of uprooting you from your world and putting you into theirs, then they're in their element and you sort of exist as this, you exist in the abstract in a way. You're not a person with a life and who is tethered in all of these ways and has these interests and here's where you live and here's the places you go to, here's your local coffee shop. No, instead, you just exist in their world as an idea. One of the ways to be taken seriously is for someone to actually see your roots, who you are, what you're all about, the places that make someone realize, oh, this person is a person with a life and things they love. I remember the first time going to my now fiance Audrey's place and seeing plants all over the apartment. It was like a moment where I realized, oh, this is something she really loves, and I didn't know about it before that. And that created more of a three-dimensional picture of who she was. And like I've said before, when someone becomes three-dimensional to us, they are far harder to walk away from. Number 7, regardless of your beliefs about who should pay on a first date, at some point, pay for something. Whether it's you're the one who buys the tickets to something, or you pick up the tab in a restaurant, or you're ordering delivery and you just hand them your phone with the restaurant already selected and say, choose what you like, and you're the one who does it on your account. It shows that the dynamic isn't a transactional one. It shows the absence of any kind of entitlement, and it shows you're a team player, that you're willing to contribute. And when someone is thinking about their future, more than anything else, registering that someone is a team player is a deep reason for choosing someone. Number 8, send them a picture from a different part of your life where they see you in a context they haven't seen you yet. We all are multidimensional, but a lot of people only see us in one context, the date context. It could be a picture or a video of you having a fun moment with your family, and they get the context of you being this person who loves and is loved by these people in your life. It could be you at a work conference where you're dressed up in your work attire and you say, 5 hours of business workshops today, wish me luck. And they get to see you in a professional context. Whatever it is, it goes back to that idea of painting a three-dimensional picture about you. A huge part of that is what I call unique pairings, when someone sees that you're not just this thing, you're that thing as well. You're not just sexy and fun, you're professional. You're not just professional, you're sweet and warm and a family person. It shows these different parts of you that make you a complex and uniquely attractive person. Number 9, send them an I was listening text. This is where you send them a text message that calls back to something they have told you about themselves or their interests. So it could be that they talked about how they love movie scores, and you send them a text with a link to a movie score that you really love. I thought you'd like this since you're so into movie scores. When you do this, it's A, a little vulnerable on your part, and B, it shows that I actually, even in the amount of time that we know each other, which may not be very much, understand something about you. Something about what you like, who you are as a person. And in sending you something that relates to that, it's almost a form of acceptance, isn't it? It's a form of understanding and accepting who someone is. Number 10, save them a cookie. I mean, if you show up, to their house sometime and you say, I made these for myself earlier, but I saved you one because I know you really like cookies. Obviously, the cookies are a metaphor. Unless you ever come to one of my events, in which case this is very literal. And I will never be unhappy with you saving me a cookie.
but it's also a metaphor. Let's just call this one tiny gifts. You don't want to do it with big gifts. Big gifts reek of trying too hard. But little gifts shows that I was thinking of you when we weren't together, and therefore you're a thoughtful, kind person to be taken seriously. Number 11, be playfully assumptive. If someone sends you a message that says, "What you up to?" you say, "Why? Miss me?" Then you follow with another message before you freak out and go, "That's so arrogant, I would never say that." You immediately follow up and you say, "Just kidding. I'm with my sister right now. We're having such a good time. What are you up to?" But the work has already been done. You've already had that moment of being self-assured, being extra confident, and also putting in their mind the idea that they miss you. So that thought has been created. You texted me because you miss me, and I'm making you aware of that. I am someone to be missed. Number 12, avoid the bandwagon of agreeing with someone all the time. One of the sexiest things we can do at times is disagree with someone. Be willing to break rapport, not aggressively, but in a way that shows that we have our own mind, our own opinion, our own way of thinking. I actually think one of the really sweet ways to put this into practice is if you see the person that you're dating talking in a mean way about someone, and you get to just kind of almost check them a little bit, sweetly and playfully. But let's say they're saying something mean about someone. You go, "Hey, be nice." Now, in that moment, you are calling someone out, and that creates like just a little hair of friction, which is good. That kind of friction is actually good. You're breaking rapport. What it says to someone is, I have a high standard for myself, and you just fell beneath that standard for a moment, and you're confident enough to, albeit playfully and sweetly, check them on that. Now, number 13 is, I think, the most surprising of all of these little techniques. Before I tell you number 13, did you, at the beginning of the video, when I said go over to howtogettheguy.com, put in your name and hit start here, tell it your love life problem, it will give you my best solution, did you do that? Or did you just brush past it like it was a Dove advert? Like it was an advert for Pantene shampoo? It's not. It's an advert for me, the guy that you came here to watch. So please, go over to howtogettheguy.com, put in your name, tell it your love life problem, and it will recommend you one of my solutions. Seriously though, go over there. It's really good. And lots of people have benefited from it. Now, number 13. Number 13, beware the weekend away. Now, the reason I think this is surprising is because when someone invites us on a trip, it feels like it might be a route to something more serious, a route to getting really bonded and connected with someone so that by the time we come back, something more serious is on the cards. The problem is, if we just go and do that, without assigning any meaning to it, we run the risk of assuming that just because time spent away in close proximity with somebody would mean a lot to us, that it also means a lot to them too. Now, I'm not saying you absolutely shouldn't go and have that weekend away with somebody, but what I am saying is they should not be in any doubt as to what something like that means to you or the significance that something like that might have to you. Now, by the way, if it has no significance to you, that's okay, but we're not having that conversation. If you want to go have a fun weekend with someone, go do it. Just don't think it's going to move the needle on anything. But what you can do if you're looking for something serious with someone and they've invited you on a trip is say to them, I instinctively want to say yes because I like you and I think we would have the best time. But I also know that something like that is meaningful to me. And I wouldn't just be going on a trip with a boy if we weren't on the same page about it. Now, he may say, about what? Which, by the way, if someone says about what, that's normally a bad sign. If someone starts acting obtuse when you say things like that,
that should be treated as a little bit of a warning. But if they say about what, then you say, well, you know, about whether there's any intention behind this afterwards or whether it's just a bit of fun, which is totally fine. But I know myself, I wouldn't just be going on a trip with a boy if it was a bit of fun. To recap on this point, don't do it thinking that it will mean the same thing to them, because that's a massive assumption and it may be wrong. And don't go away with them without them knowing that it does mean something to you. And by the way, for anyone out there who is nerdy like me and just enjoys the language to put to these things, in number 4, we were talking about post-framing. In other words, sending a message or having a conversation with someone after the fact to let them know that it had meaning to you. This is pre-framing, letting them know before you do the thing that it will have meaning to you. Hey, let me know what you thought of this video. We were excited to make this one for you, and I'd love to know what you think. Please leave us a comment. Let us know which of the 13 was your favorite technique for being taken seriously. And like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so that you get the notification for the next one, and we'll see you next time. Go over to howtogettheguy.com, put in your name, tell it your love life problem, and it will recommend you one of my solutions.
I kind of love it.
I like it. I think we keep it. Before we start today's video, I wanted to let everyone know there is a free guide available at first5guide.com, where you can learn some really valuable practical techniques about what you can do in the first 5 minutes of an interaction with anybody, whether it's on a date, whether it's in a meeting, at work. You can use this to be compelling in the first 5 minutes, because how we come across in those first 5 is extremely important to what happens afterwards. So go check that out if you haven't already. It's completely free, and it is at first5guide, the number 5.com, first5guide.com. Now I want to get into this video. I wanted to make a video today that really was a love letter to some of the skills that are most important to me on a practical level when it comes to people. I know that many of you, perhaps most of you, come to me for love life advice. But if I were to zoom out, one of the skill sets I am most proud I have learned in my life is the ability to interact well with other people, the ability to navigate relationships, the ability to make an impact when I go into a room or when I step up on stage or when I make a video. This is a skill set that has been valuable to me in every aspect of my life. It's the most transferable skill set I've ever learned, whether it's being able to build a company, growing an online audience, making videos, being on stage, or meeting and interacting with a person at an engagement party that I went to who went on to become the love of my life, my fiance. This skill set, I believe, is one that I could not have got by without. So I wanted to make a video for you today that almost acted like a mini masterclass in this area and go through some of my top ideas and tips for how you can have more impact, whether you want to use it in your love life, in your social life, or in your work life. And I narrowed it down for the purposes of this video, so it didn't turn into a 3-hour masterclass. I wanted to narrow it down to 14 things. So here we go. Number 1, you can change. I once asked my mum, "How do you know who you are, Mum?" It's a funny question to ask my mum, but we were on a retreat at the time and I was working on content about how to figure out who we are. And I said, "How do you know who you are?" She said, "Well, I know who I am because of what I've done and what I'm comfortable with." And I said, "That's exactly right." And in a sense, what that is it's looking in the rear view mirror. It's looking at who we've been so far. It's not looking at who we could be or how we might evolve. We all know that we have evolved in interesting ways in our life. We've come to enjoy things we never thought we would enjoy. We've adopted new parts of our own identity that we didn't have once upon a time. When you think of your own personal impact and you immediately put limitations on what you're capable of, I want you to start from a place of saying, I can change. I know that because there are areas of my life where I've already changed. There are skills I've already brought on that I never used to have. There are ways I've already grown in confidence. There are people skills I've learned. And that means that I'm not at the end of that journey. There's way further to go in terms of the impact that I can make in the world and in my world. And the important thing with that point is this particular phrase: don't focus on finding yourself. Get to work on creating yourself. The second point I want to make about impact is energy. People who have impact have a certain level of energy. Energy is different. I've spent my life public speaking and working with all different kinds of people in their ability to project. And everyone's version of projection is a little different. Some people walk into a room and they're life and soul, loudest person in the room. Other people are much more quiet and reserved. Now, I do not fit into the loudest person in the room archetype. I'm not life and soul of the party, but I have my own version of energy. And you, on your best day, have your own version of energy too. Your version of energy can be your best possible open and warm expression when you're feeling confident. It could be the way you move your body, the way you gesture. It could be a glint in your eye when you're talking about something that you're truly passionate about. But one of the things you'll notice about people who have impact is there is an energy to these people. And people who don't have impact, people who struggle to hold your attention or to be compelling in life, they're missing that thing. It's not that they're not loud. You can be quiet and have a certain energy that's very compelling. You could be the person who doesn't say many words, but when you speak, everyone listens. You know that person at the dinner table? There's someone at the dinner table that when they speak, no one listens because they just speak the whole time. But there's certain people that when they speak, everyone's tuned in. I remember doing a show with my dear friend, Dr. Ruth. And this is a woman who, when I met her, she was in her 90s. And she was on the Rachel Ray show. You remember this, Jameson. And on the Rachel Ray show, I remember Rachel Ray saying to Dr. Ruth, this woman in her 90s, when it came to sex, I think they were talking about, she said, but, you know, what about when you're tired? And Dr. Ruth, this vivacious, powerful, 4'5" woman, she said, if you're tired, sleep. I have no time for tired people. If you're tired, sleep. And I remember thinking to myself, there's a reason that Dr. Ruth has all this impact. There is a sense of energy about her. Think of your impact role models, the people that when you watch them, you're mesmerized. There's something about their energy that's not the average. So energy, have a spark in your eye, be excited about things, be fascinated, be impressed, be passionate about ideas or moments. Be excited about the little things. When me and Audrey go to places, or when me and Jameson go to places, I get excited about little details. I get excited about the coffee. I get excited about the place we're in. We could be sitting at a bar and I'll be like, this bar's really cool, isn't it? I can't contain that excitement. And there's a sense of that, you know, that quality is one that's very magnetic. When I'm around it with other people, I want to be around those people more. So number 2, energy, a key component of impact. Number 3, while you're finding your voice, be compassionate with yourself. This is really important because all of us, as we go through life, we're discovering our voice. We're both in it's like we're simultaneously creating ourselves and we're kind of discovering at the same time what works about our voice. I know in the early days of me being on YouTube, I didn't really know what people liked about me or whether they even would like me. I was just putting out videos. And what started to happen was I learned over time what resonated with people about me. And many of us, if we pay attention, we'll learn in life what resonates about me with other people. In the beginning, though, we often start by parroting other influences. I know when I was starting out and I was maybe 17 and I started speaking on stage a little bit here and there, whoever would let me on the stage, I would start speaking on stage. And the person I was parroting was Tony Robbins. He was like a personal hero of mine at the time. And it was almost like I was doing a really bad Tony Robbins impression. And that lingered for a little bit because what happens is you mimic and you imitate and you parrot the influences that you feel inspired by. And you do that until you figure out what your voice is. Through that, your own voice begins to emerge. So what I want you to do is be a little compassionate with yourself while you're putting yourself out there in different ways in your life. If sometimes you end up feeling like a bit of a bad version of somebody else or of an influence, that's okay. That's what happens when you try and break a mold that you've set for yourself. You start by imitating inspiration and influences, but we graduate out of that and into something that's truly us. In the meantime, be compassionate about your own journey to finding that voice. Exercise compassion with your voice and my handwriting. Number 4, be passionate in the meantime. So what you lack in perfect ways of saying things or being eloquent, you can make up for in just being passionate about what you're talking about, whatever that may be. If you're on a date, you don't have to say something perfectly to be passionate about something in life, to be passionate about an idea, to be passionate about a hobby, to be passionate about your own life or the journey that you're on. You don't have to say it perfectly, to say it in an interesting way, because passion is interesting. Passion is compelling all on its own. You know that feeling when you watch someone light up as they talk about something. Your favorite teacher in school almost always is the person that has had a level of passion about their subject that brought you into it. It made you want to be a part of it. It could even get you excited about something you didn't care about before. I always think, when I think of some of my impact heroes like Anthony Bourdain or Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, I looked at those people and I came to the realization that with Steve Irwin, he had a show about reptiles and crocodiles, and after a time, you realized that you weren't watching Steve Irwin so that you could witness crocodiles. You were watching crocodiles so that you could witness Steve Irwin. I wasn't watching Anthony Bourdain so that I could witness all different parts of the world. I ended up watching all different parts of the world so that I could witness Anthony Bourdain, because it was their passion that brought me in and made me want to know who they were. So be passionate in the meantime, even when you're fumbling your way through figuring out what your voice is. So number 4, passion. Be passionate along the way. Now, number 5, we've already said, but I want you to write it down. Stop trying to find yourself and start creating yourself. So stop trying to find yourself and start creating yourself. The people that I know in life that get far are the ones who just iterate. They don't try to figure out the perfect version of something now. They have an idea and they just put that idea to work immediately. It's amazing. One of my friends, Jesse Itzler, has a club called the Big Ass Calendar Club. Being a friend of his and loving what he does, I immediately became a part of this program where he created this giant calendar for you to fill out for your year. It was a really cool program. But what I love about Jesse and what's so inspiring about this man is that he doesn't wait for something to be perfect before doing it. He just gets out the first version of it, and he'll get feedback and he'll think about what could be done differently, and then he'll make another version. What he won't do is sit around for 3 years trying to create the perfect version. It's iterative. And we ourselves are the same. We have to go through an iterative process in order to become the most impactful version of ourselves. So stop trying to find yourself in the same way that we have to stop trying to find the perfect idea in life. Instead, create yourself. And creation is an iterative process. Number 6, this is an interesting one. Celebrate the impact that others have. One of the things we do when we're insecure is we feel like all of life is a competition. And I suffered from this, I think, in my 20s. I know. I suffered from this in my 20s. I almost felt like everything was one big competition all the time. And if someone else had impact, that took away from my impact. And so I didn't want to lift other people up. It was all competitive. And I was almost like, if someone wasn't in my lane, then it was easy to say nice things about them. You might be able to relate. But when someone's in your lane and you feel competitive and you feel like, oh, but they're better than me, or maybe they have more impact than me, so I dare not speak it. That's something that happens in all walks of life. It happens in business when we think that someone is doing something well and it feels like almost it treads on our toes that that business or that person does something well. But it also happens in love. You know, we're afraid of the person who walks into the room who we feel like is, you know, our competition for the person we want because they're better looking or they have a better body than us or they're at an age that we think is more attractive. We suddenly start being afraid of, it's almost like we want to just be out of the room with we don't want to be in the room at all with those people, or we want to shut them down, or we want to kind of compete with them. I've noticed in my lifetime that the people with the most impact, they support other people, they support other talent, they get excited about other talent. Jameson, who's that, the director of Arrival? Is it Denis Villeneuve? Denis Villeneuve? Yeah. Denis Villeneuve was this wonderful moment where I was on TV in Toronto. I was in the green room with this director, and he's directed, I mean, he's the guy right now, isn't he? I mean, what did he direct? Arrival, June, Prisoners, there was a bunch of other movies. He's Enemy, amazing director. And I was in the green room with him before going on. I was going to go and talk about, I think it was when I was talking about the book or something, but he was on to promote one of his movies. And we were in the green room. And he will never remember this, but he did something that really inspired me. He was watching, at the time, Scorsese's Wolf of Wall Street had just come out. So the trailers were running on the TV. And I remember him looking like a little kid watching the TV and seeing the trailer for Wolf of Wall Street. And he looked over at me and he went, "Have you seen it?" And I was like, "Wolf of Wall Street? Yeah." He said, "It's amazing, isn't it?" And he was like so giddy. He was like just celebrating Martin Scorsese and giddy over this movie. Now, he could have been competitive, but instead, he's just a guy who loves movies. He's just a guy who appreciates talent, and he's talking about it. One of the things I've worked to do in my life is just learn to appreciate talent, learn to appreciate impact, learn to appreciate who's doing something well. It doesn't matter if they're one of my peers. It doesn't matter if they're in the same lane as me. It's just awesome. It's just more awesome. And the more you can get comfortable with other people who have impact, the more that you allow yourself to be open, to be inspired by it, the more you allow yourself to be open to supporting and being supported by people like that. But the people who never grow are the people that never grow out of being threatened by other people that have impact and by other people they perceive to have more impact than them. If you're confident, you don't see it as a zero-sum game. If you're confident, you make space for more people. And by the way, it should be said that in companies, this is something that tends to keep people at the level they are. When they can't make space for other people and grow other leaders, they never rise up in a company. The irony is that when we're fighting to protect our space, we limit how far we can go. If we make space for other people and we celebrate other people and we grow other people, we ourselves grow in the process. Celebrate the impact of others. Very good. We're going to move a little more quickly through these because I have 14 of them, but hopefully you're enjoying these. By the way, if you haven't already, please go and download that free guide. Go to first5guide.com. Seriously, if you haven't already, open up a tab, go over there, type it in. You can always come back to this video. This video is going to be a valuable thing that you get to come back to anytime you want. But go and download that guide while you can right now. first5guide.com. All right, let's move on to number 7. Celebrate the impact of others, but don't over-respect people. Often I will get nervous
if I've lost sight of this and I'm interviewing someone that I've told myself is just so much better than me in every way, and now I'm getting nervous because I've put them on a pedestal. Same happens in dating. We get nervous around someone because they're particularly attractive or successful, or they have a lot of money, or they have a lot of status or power. And we start to over-respect them. Instead of just having a kind of sense of, wow, what an impressive person, we start to over-respect them. And when we over-respect them, we crave their validation. Instead of just saying, as Christopher Hitchens would have said, whenever you see another person, whenever you see an expert in something, remember they're just another primate. Number 8. This is one of my favorites. We often, especially when we're over-respecting other people's voices in the world, we feel like our voice isn't worth anything. And we fall into the trap of thinking, well, it's all already been said. What am I going to say that's new? Now, we could think that on a date by feeling like, well, how am I going to stand out? What's going to be different about me to the last 10 people this person went on a date with? We can feel it I could feel it if I'm not careful when I make a video. Look how many videos there are every day posted on YouTube. What am I going to say that's new or different? Now, how do you get yourself into a frame of reference where you still think your voice is important, even though it's such a noisy environment to try to be heard in? Stop worrying about saying the new and start saying it new. In other words, say it in a fresh way. And in a sense, the freshness comes from your authentic story. When you're on a date telling your story to someone, it's your story. You can't mess it up. It's yours. And you're the only person that can have your exact perspective in life based on what you've been through. You're the only person that can have that. William Zinsser, in his book On Writing Well, talked about how a travel writer could go to Japan and think, well, why write about Japan? Everyone's already written about it. Tokyo has been written about thousands of times. Why bother writing about it? And he said in his book, because they haven't heard what you have to say about Tokyo. You've never been to Tokyo before. So when you go, you have some kind of perspective that is by definition your own. And that perspective is what you're writing about. Remember, when you're telling your story in life, it's your perspective that you're sharing, and you're the only one who has your exact vantage point. There are many people that can talk about, in my world, that can talk about confidence, that can talk about self-love, that could talk about dating, that could talk about personal change. And there are many people doing it. But no one's Mathew Hussey. No one's got quite my take, because no one's got my exact story. It's my story. I have a monopoly on my own vantage point. So don't say the new, say it new. And I don't have time to go into this right now, but one of the great ways to say something new, to say it in a new and fresh way, is to find metaphors. You'll see in my work all the time, metaphors come out over and over and over again. The white handkerchief as a metaphor for being able to select the guy that you want to talk to without having to do all of the work and still making him think it was his idea. The handkerchief becomes an instant metaphor for people to understand that concept. If you want to have impact, become very adept at using metaphor. But this is a subject for another time. Number 9. Lean into the things that you love. When you are speaking to people in any walk of life, lean in to what you love. Many of us are embarrassed by what we truly love, so we start to act like we love all the same things as everybody else. Do you like that movie? Yeah, I like that movie too. Did you not like that movie? Okay, well then I'm not going to talk about how much I loved that movie. Many of us are very we have our idiosyncrasies. We have our things that we really love doing. We have our things that make us a bit different, a bit weird, a bit quirky, a bit geeky, a bit something. There's something we obsess about. There's something we love, but a lot of us don't talk about it because we're afraid that we'll be judged for it. We'll be afraid that it will be thought silly. And that's a real shame, because it's the things that we fall in love with that make us an interesting person to be around, because the reasons why we love them can be quite fascinating. What we love is not nearly as important as why,
we love it. And when we're shying away from the things we love, people actually never learn why it is that we love it. I always was a bit embarrassed by the fact that I'm such a huge fan of Disney World and Disneyland. Right? This is something that if you follow me a lot, you know that I'm a big fan. But amidst all of the things that I like getting my blue belt in jiu-jitsu, which is cool, that's one of those things that it's not like I feel like by saying that I'm going to be seen as cool. But I have my reasons why I love it so much. So when you think of the things that you love that feel a bit embarrassing or a bit odd, a bit quirky, remember that you leaning into those things is one of the most powerful things about your impact. Don't make excuses for what you love. Show us why you love those things. Number 10, one of the reasons that you can lean into the quirkier, geekier, stranger things that you love is that that's not all you are. You're not one thing, right? Embrace the ands. Embrace the ands. In other words, I'm not just an adult who loves going to Disney World and has an annual pass. I am someone who goes to jiu-jitsu 3 or 4 times a week and rolls around and fights people for fun. I'm someone who likes writing and writes on really deep subjects. I'm somehow paradoxically someone who hates inauthentic experiences and loves really deep, authentic things. And the reason I loved going to Japan is because of the deep history and the culture and the fact that you feel like you're embedded in something that's real. It's not a simulacrum of Japan. It's not a Mickey Mouse version of Japan. It's Japan. And yet somehow I love authentic experiences, and I love Disney World, which is the ultimate manufactured experience. Embrace the ands. You're not a simple person. You're not about one thing. You're about many things. Don't be so easy to pigeonhole. Make yourself a little unpredictable. Embrace the ands. Keep people guessing a little bit. Have some unique pairings. You don't have to have an opinion. You don't have to have an opinion. We live in a world today that has tried to make you have an opinion on everything, which is absurd because you can't be an expert on everything. We can only be an expert in very, very small areas. So instead of feeling like you need to know everything about everything, let go. If someone's saying something in a room and you don't have a strong opinion, don't have a strong opinion. Don't feel like you need to voice an opinion just because other people are. And while we're at it, let's be real about something. We live in a world today where it seems like it's anathema to hang out with or converse with someone who has different opinions than you. One of the greatest ways to have impact is to speak with, hang out with, learn about people who don't agree with you on the things that you feel certain about, and vice versa. This is how we start to become someone who's more rounded, who understands more about what the other side thinks. And that's a way of connecting with people. It's also a great way of debating with people, because one of the greatest, if you want to debate people well, you have to know their argument better than they do. And you're never going to know their argument better than they do unless you actually study it. And you can't study it if you'll never be in the same room as that person. I do plenty of interviews. Some of you have seen my interviews where I interview someone, and you may at certain points be sitting there going, I know Matt doesn't agree with the point this person just made, but he's not saying anything. That's because I don't feel the need to debate people all the time. I don't feel the need to make myself right. I can just go, oh, they believe that thing that's different to what I believe, but that's okay. We'll keep moving. There are strategic times where we want to debate or persuade, but we don't have to have an opinion all the time on everything. And by the way, that's also about embracing the ands in other people. Embrace the ands in other people. Allow them to be complex too. Number 12. If you want to have impact, execute. Be the kind of person who says they're going to do something and then do it. Be the kind of person who has an idea and does something about it. execute, even if imperfectly. You've heard it before, I'm sure. Take imperfect action. People who execute, they stand out. If you want to stand out in life, be a doer, because other people will look at you and go, wow, what's this? There's something about this person. They don't just talk. Most people just talk. If you do, you immediately stand out. So if you want to have more impact, execute. And it really helps when you're executing, be okay with being wrong. If you can learn to live with being wrong and adjusting course along the way, you're free. I did a podcast not so long ago on the biological clock. And it's a touchy subject for me as a man to wade into, but I think the conversation is so important that I'd rather wade into it heavy-handed and at least get the conversation started than avoid it altogether. It just so happens that in a particular podcast I did last year, I was a little heavy-handed about a part of that conversation. And some people came back and critiqued it, and they were like, Matt, you're missing the point on this. And it actually turned into an amazing conversation because I said, you know what, you're right. You're right. I hadn't considered that. And then I invited a couple of fertility experts onto my podcast and had the most amazing conversation I've had on the topic yet, because instead of hiding away from being wrong, I said, oh, that's interesting. You brought something up I hadn't considered. I was wrong about that, or I was too heavy-handed about that. Let's have the conversation. So the way I get around this is I go, you know what? I'm just going to search for truth. If I'm searching for truth, I don't need to worry about being wrong. I'm just searching for truth. So I could be wrong as many times as I want, as long as I keep getting closer to the truth. I'm not worried about the egoic component of it. I could say something in this video that's wrong, and someone could call me out and say, Matt, I really disagree with you on this. Now, if I'm coming from a place of ego, like I have to be right all the time, I'm going to get mad when you say that. If I'm coming up from a place of searching for truth and you actually bring up a better point than what I've made in this video, I'll make another video. And I'll go, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so someone said in the comments this, and it made me think, and now I have this. And by the way, because of that malleability and that flexibility, I now have a better answer to talk about for the rest of my life. And it's all because I was flexible in the first place. So be okay with being wrong. It's the same in relationships. If your goal is connection, then it's not about being right all the time. It's about connection. And so now you don't say, oh my God, they've got me over a barrel on this concept and this thing they've said. I'm embarrassed because I feel like they've pinned me down on something I'm wrong about and I'm going to let my pride take over. No, if the connection is what's most important to you in a relationship, whether it's with a family member or someone that you're romantically involved with, then you don't care about being wrong. You care about the connection. And you can come back to that person and say, listen, I realized I was over the top when I said that. I was irrational. I was too mad and it made me say something I didn't mean. That was wrong of me to do that. I'm sorry. And now the connection is what grows as a result because you're okay with being wrong. How many relationships end because someone can't be okay with being wrong? You may have been in one of them. The last thing I want to say is not a statement, but a question. I suppose it is sort of an instruction, but we'll turn it into a question. Make a decision on where you want to level up your impact this year. So what's an area you want to level up? Last year, one of my very specific things is I wanted to swear less. I wanted to curse less. In my videos, in my speeches, and in general in my life. I actually did a pretty good job of that. I still curse, and the goal wasn't to not curse at all. It was just, you know what, 80% of my cursing is kind of, doesn't serve a purpose. 20% of the time, I kind of like it. But I eliminated the 80% quite effectively. So now I'm on to the next thing. And one of the things I want to do effectively this year is I want to work on speaking more effectively. And what to me that means, after 15 years of public speaking, is are there areas where I could be saying more but in less words? Does it need as many words as I've given it? The irony of this video is it's probably longer than our other videos, but I actually think that the ground we've covered has been pretty vast in the space of 14 points over however many minutes the video is. But I want to work on speaking effectively. If you watch Charlie Munger on stage, I know that they do their whole conference with Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett every year. And it's really funny to watch the sort of polarity between Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, because Warren Buffett likes a monologue. But if you listen to Charlie Munger, he'll sum up what Warren Buffett just said in the space of about 5 words. Now, I'm never going to be Charlie Munger. My way of talking is different in style than that. And all of our videos would be a minute and a half if I was Charlie Munger, and you probably wouldn't follow this channel. But I also recognize over the course of my life that I've often taken too many words to say what I want to say. So I want to be more effective in my speaking. Say what I mean, and then get on to the next point. So that's my thing. What's yours? What's a aspect of your impact? Maybe it's your body language that you want to transform this year. Maybe you know that there's something you want to emulate about the way other people move and use their bodies that you know is really powerful. Maybe it's your voice, and you know your voice isn't particularly strong and you want to work on it because it's actually harming you to not be able to project your voice in a noisy space or in a meeting or in a speech or even just at the dinner table. Maybe the thing you want to work on is your persuasion with people, your ability to really craft a great argument and to deliver it to someone in a way that they're receptive to it, because that's what persuasion is, isn't it? Persuasion isn't just hitting someone over the head with an argument and making them feel bad. Persuasion is, how do I craft it in a beautiful way and make it palatable for you so that you actually receive what I'm saying? What's the area of your impact that you want to improve on? Now, for everybody who's watching this right now, one of the things we can all improve on is the impact we make in the first 5 minutes of an interaction. So if you haven't already, I want to invite you to come and grab the free guide that I've created, where between me and my brother Stephen, we took the first 5 minutes that I did on a radio interview in a crowded room. And Stephen pointed out that there were some very specific things I did in those first 5 minutes that made an impact and won the room over. And so we decided to create a free guide that broke down the practical things I did that can be used in any situation, from a date to showing up to a party, to going into an interview or a meeting, to making a video, if you want to make videos. But this first 5 minutes and these practical things are really powerful, and they make your first impression count. So go over to First 5 Guide, the number 5, first5guide.com, and download that free guide now. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Something a bit different. I know that so many of you come to me for love advice, but my guess is if you've been following me for more than a couple of videos, it's because you know that what I'm doing here has mass application to every part of your life. And sometimes we go far deeper, but what I love about these skill sets is that they're super practical and they're things that you'll use every single day. And regardless of how hard I've worked in my life, and I've always worked hard, if I didn't have these skill sets of impact, I never would have been able to achieve what I've achieved in my life. I'm so grateful that I know these things, and this is just scratching the surface. So come over to that guide with us now, first5guide.com. I will see you over there, and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.